everybody, and welcome to another edition of Reigniting Small Business. I'm Laura Richards, and I'm here today with Patrick Lee, CEO of Spark Business Institute. Hi, Patrick.
Hello.
So today is part two, looking at locally owned small business. And specifically today, we're going to be looking at the advantages that small businesses have in making customers feel known.
Yeah, that's right. Last week, I gave a stat from Forrester's 2018 Customer Experience Index, which found that the way an experience makes customers feel has a bigger influence on brand loyalty than any other factor. And I do mean how they feel, not how they understand, how they feel.
Which this is a really big strategic advantage for small business. Unfortunately, not all small business owners are realizing the maximum benefit that they have. And why do you think that is?
I think that has a lot to do with the evolution of a small business brand. You know, most small businesses are begun with a vision of a founder, right? Maybe it's a couple of partners, but a lot of times there's one kind of leader who's got this vision. And so they're more interested in being operational, right? They're more interested in getting that business running. They're out trying to grab customers. And the way that brand sort of evolves is more how they start the business, the practices and how they behave, which sort of showcases what their true authentic purpose is there. How they're interacting with their clients, how they're delivering the service, how they communicate. And so they've begun to create a brand. They just haven't done a lot of marketing necessarily yet, right? And a lot of times at the beginning, the marketing is very simple. You know, we've got our basic logo, our basic stuff that showcases, but our brand is a lot more about how we're behaving, interacting with our clients, how we're delivering, right? And so, there's an intrinsic, almost unstated brand promise that they're putting out there without even realizing it. When it comes down to it, human beings tend to respond well to authentic, sincere communication and behavior, right? And so your real self is coming out.
Yes.
And it's so funny because, people reject what's fake or dishonest. So, think about it. What's the standard thing when people say we don't want to be sold? Well, that person was like a used car salesman. Well, I mean, okay, that has a meaning for everybody. And that's what you don't want to be, right? But typically, without even knowing it, businesses are putting out what their core intent really is.
So let's give our listeners an example of that. One that comes to mind for me is I'm a massage therapist, and I really enjoy people and I enjoy making them feel better, and I want to do it as quickly as possible. And I'm very in tune with what they need, and I'm empathic, and I'm able to set the tone that matches their demeanor and their personality. And so I start getting clients, and I'm seeing clients, and I'm building a business. And the people that are hearing about me are people who like my style and like the way I roll. Well, I start getting successful, and so I hire other massage therapists. How am I making sure that these therapists fit the model of the business that I have? And do I even know why my customers are coming to me?
And I think this is the interesting part of this whole thing. Owners are doing what they do, right? Naturally. And if you were to ask them, like, so what's your brand? And they say, I give really good massages, right? Or my clients really love me. Okay. Why? And is it every client that wants a massage really loves you? Or have you attracted a certain group of people who want a massage for a particular reason? And so it's always the what, not the how or the why that kind of comes out here. And so, I think there's a whole lot there that people don't even realize is there.
Yes, there's a lot more there.
There's a lot more there, yes.
So what's interesting also is that some employees naturally are able to, some owners are naturally able to imbue their employees to carry on and continue the communication of the brand really, really well as they grow. But for other owners, layers start, hiring happens, layers happen, the owner becomes further and further away from that client that they had this very authentic reason for being together, and that brand can be watered down or even lost altogether when employees lose touch with the origin story and the cultural significance of the relationship that the brand has with its followers. So I think losing that connection is something that you're not aware of when the brand happens organically and it's never discovered and written down and purposely passed on. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, that clarity is the clarity and understanding and almost the definition of that brand. If it's not stated, easily gets lost, just gets watered down. We never knew what it was to begin with. We just were behaving, right? So let's talk about the solution to this. So at SBI, we have a service that we call brand discovery. And that is a process. It's a very unique process that we put clients through that is there to authenticate a small business's intrinsic core brand promise. Okay, fancy way of saying we actually find out what that purpose is, what that drive is. And by discovering that, we're able to kind of create the language and the practices that highlight that authentic approach that attracts those core customers, right? And makes the business what they are. And you'd be surprised because this is extremely exciting for owners and for the businesses themselves, because they're like, oh, wow, like we get it. We get it. And when they get it, the focus is able to even make it more powerful. Right? Because there's not a lot of stuff off to the sides that you're messing with. You're like, that's what we're about. And then people can just focus in on it. All employees, everybody's easy to train people to it. It's easy to create language, all of that. It's easy to show the customer. And so the nice piece about this is that you're now talking to folks, to customers, to potential customers in your sweet spot. And now people are opting in. So before, you were outselling, you were attracting all kinds of people. And the ones who stayed and appreciated you because of who you were, they stayed and appreciated you. And the others kind of rolled off. This allows you to put it out there so that they're opting in. That it's the people who are already interested in what your core reasons for being your authentic thing is. They're showing up knowing what it is. All you have to do is deliver.
So, Patrick, I think the most important word that you said in that paragraph was focus. Because one of the things that we've seen is when people have their reason for being right in front of them, it really helps them to stay on that path. They're not going to veer right. They're not going to veer left because they're looking at it. And now all their staff is looking at it and their customers are looking at it and they'll validate it. Yeah, right on. This is why we picked you. And now when people are sent into the business, they're being sent into the business for those very reasons why this business is number one at what it's doing. And there is an aha moment, both when the business owner fully embraces this, and I think it is also on the client side when they find that right match.
Yeah, so let's tell a story to explain this from the negative side. Let's explain where we tend to do things as we understand they need to be done, and by not necessarily putting out our authentic voice, we end up not getting the results we expect. So I'll tell a story of a client who shall go unnamed. Who this client was very talented, very smart, and she knew that she had to be able to sell. So she got really good at selling. She got really good at networking. She got really good at selling, and she would go out and she would meet people she needed to meet, and she would sell them. And her sale pitch was exciting. She would go in there, she would talk to them, she would get them all jazzed up. She'd be very creative with them. They'd go back and forth, and this person was like, wow, this is like a bolt of energy. Of course I want to sign with you. Okay. Here's the thing, though. That was the pretext of sales. That was doing sales. But that wasn't who she was. Who she was very different. Who she was very buttoned up. She was very system. How she actually produced and delivered was very systematic. She had a process. The process worked this way. There was checklists. It was almost the polar opposite of how she sold. It wasn't like, let's get creative, let's go back and forth. It was, I know how to do this. I have a process that works. Once you're signed up, I put you in the process, and here you go. So when I arrived to work with her, what we discovered, like, she was selling fine. Her sales numbers were great, but her retention numbers were horrible. And at first, we of course thought, oh, this is related to, there's something you're not delivering right, or there's some promise you're making that isn't being shown. But when we started looking at it, that was not the case. So we said, okay, we need to investigate this from beginning to end. And when we followed from the initial lead, here's somebody she's talking to, and we watched this come all the way through, it was clear as day. She sold them in this way that they had expectations of, I'm always going to be energized by this person. You're going to want to get on the phone with me, and we're going to be creative together, and we're going to do all it. And once they signed, that's not at all what they got. Now, here's the thing. For clients who stumbled in, and not many stumbled in, by the way, who fit what she actually delivered, because they weren't drawn to how she was selling, right? But there's a few got through, and those stuck around because they did want exactly what she was delivering. We want this just to work. We want it buttoned up. We want it on time. We want everything to be understood. We don't want a lot of hassle. Well, that's what she was delivering. That's just not who she was attracting or selling to.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great example, especially in a creative field. So, and interestingly, we've worked with lots of clients, by the way, and we've had so many success stories when we see our clients when they do discover this authentic voice. And it's funny. Usually, there's a twofold reaction. The first reaction is so much so that we now give a preamble that if you're not uncomfortable with what we're about to show you, then we've done something wrong. So the first reaction is extreme discomfort. Like, well, maybe this isn't what I thought that I was doing. I didn't know that I was giving an empathic approach to massage. I just thought I was giving a really good massage. So there's at first that might not be who I am. And then after that, there's this embracing it and this new ability to understand their identity and allowing those customer opt-ins, like we were talking about, where prospects are seeing themselves and opting in and being very happy with what they have. So creating that solid relationship. So
go ahead.
No, you go.
I think that I think part of that whole issue is that we think on some human level that being acceptable to everybody is the best way to be. So be sort of bland almost. So whenever we're showing people they're authentic and it's that focused and direct, it feels more to the person who's seeing that clearly for the first time, like, well, wait a minute, that could alienate some. Versus, well, it actually is going to bring to you exactly who needs to be here and make your job a lot easier. But at first it's that, oh my gosh, we're going to alienate some people here.
Well, and I think if a brand is done right, it doesn't appeal to everyone. It appeals to the people it should appeal to. And I think that is really scary because you're putting that line in the sand. This is who I am. And but I think the reverse is true too when you talk about, and I'll let you speak to this, but efficiencies, what's the flip side of that?
Well, the flip side of that is that, look, you can't make everybody happy. And if you don't know who your target market is and you're just chasing everybody, it is extremely inefficient. You're trying to sell people who somehow can feel that it's not a good fit, but you're on them and you're spending a lot of time and they're not sure what's going on and they're not sure why they're not going to. And you may even force a few of those sales, but then it's hard to make those people happy and keep them happy. Well, imagine if everybody who showed up was already pre-screened. They're already warmed up. They're already good fits for you. They're already going to appreciate if you just deliver. All you have to do is deliver your authentic, what you deliver. If you just do that, they're going to be happy because they've already bought into everything. Wouldn't you just want a whole crowd of them versus a whole crowd of everybody and trying to keep this person happy, that person happy, this person wants this person wants that. I don't do that well, but oh my gosh, I can't lose a client, right? There's revenue there. If you think about it rationally, you understand that focus on the right market makes all the sense in the world. But turning away possible business is such an emotionally difficult thing for a business owner to do.
Yeah, and we talk about brand voices being one of these things that can be a disruptor, right? And how that evolves is that even though businesses are acting out of their own, authentic premise already, if they're not articulating what they're doing and turning that forward facing, when they do that, it can create some disruption.
And I would say, our brand discovery process, if there isn't disruption involved, both for the owner of the business and the business itself, and for how clients are viewing it, we haven't done our job. This isn't and let's be very clear, we're not a marketing firm. So we're not giving you a marketing strategy and advertising strategy. We're not looking, and we're going to go over some of those common mistakes that small businesses make here, but that's not what we're doing. We're helping you authenticate and focus and target and know what your core purpose is, so that when you do go market and advertise and do all of that, you're speaking the right language in the right way, right? So this is different. We're not selling you a marketing piece here. We're not going to design you the best marketing strategy. There are people who will do that. We're going to get you to understand who your correct core client is, why they will appreciate what you do, and why you deliver the way you deliver. That match makes all the advertising and marketing in the world work a lot easier because we know exactly who we're talking to and why they're interested.
Exactly. And it's this clarity. It's this realization of how and why we do what we do as a business that creates clarity for the consumer and helps seal in that lock.
Yeah.
So, one of the things we talked about doing here at the end of the podcast, Patrick, was giving an example of a company who has embraced, their brand in a level that is articulated so well to their employees and is so understood by their customers. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about one that everybody knows, and it's probably a classic example here, and that's Chick-fil-A. Okay, so let's just say the things we know about Chick-fil-A. We know that they're customer centric, right? It's their pleasure to serve us. We know that they hire everyone who works there are these folks people who are empathetic, like interacting with people, and can deliver excellent customer service. That's how they hire. They're not hiring for any other reason. We also know that they have certain values that they put forward very clearly, right? They are a faith-based business. They're closed on Sundays, okay? And they have very specific menu, right? We are Chick-fil-A. This is what we deliver. And so when you start thinking about their entire thing, you know exactly what you're going to get. You know how it's going to be delivered to you, right? And there are rabid fans of Chick-fil-A because of exactly that. And you'll see this. You'll see. I have driven by the Chick-fil-A's where there are lines into the parking lot and into their drive-throughs, and people will wait. Who ever heard of waiting for fast food? Okay. Now, we also have all had that experience. I mean, I've told this story before, I know, but I'll tell it again. I'm driving through the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through to get my chai, right? And my wife's driving, and she pulls up. She's putting the order in, and at the end of the order, the person says, "It's been my pleasure to serve you." So we're pulling up to the window, and she turns to me and she goes, "They used to work at Chick-fil-A." Okay, like we know when we hit one of those people, and they buy it. They've been indoctrinated. I mean, that Dunkin' Donuts isn't known for that, but that person's still there delivering that.
That's exactly right. And I wanted to end on a high note and give an example of a company that pushes all the way through that. They even have a community liaison, and it's usually an elderly or retired person who goes around the community and gives away free chicken sandwiches. That's their job. They're paid a salary to go around and give out free food. I think that says a lot because they understand that the best experience they can give a customer is to actually come into the restaurant and have their food there and interact with their employees because their employees are such good ambassadors.
So let me tell a quick story on that. I was at a homecoming game for one of my children's schools, and it was a potluck homecoming, and everybody had brought their stuff and all. And so the game's going on. They go to halftime. It was a soccer game. They go to halftime, and everyone comes over, and they're starting to munch. And all of a sudden, this Chick-fil-A truck zips up, hops out. Two people hop out, go in the back, come out with these huge trays. And they come over and they say, "Hey, we heard you're having a homecoming." Well, we thought somebody ordered it. So we're like, "Who ordered the Chick-fil-A?" And all that? And then the guy goes, "Oh, no, we heard about it. We just thought we'd come over and celebrate with you all." And when everybody's like, "Oh, we love Chick-fil-A." I mean, who wouldn't be impressed with that?
Well, there's a little extension into marketing for all of you.
That's exactly right.
Okay. We didn't know we were going to go into marketing. Well, thank you all for spending another 20 minutes with Patrick and I and tuning in to Reigniting Small Business. We'll see you here next week.
Bye, everybody.